Oh, you will love this. EU bureaucrats reportedly could launch a formal dispute with the UK after the government's strike laws came into force, which they argue breached the Brexit deal on workers' rights. And according to the British newspaper Telegraph, officials in Brussels have expressed concerns Britain could be breaching the terms of the Free Trade Agreement with minimum service levels rules. Brought in by Rishi Sunak last year, the legislation permits transport operations to mandate workers to clock in for shifts, even during strikes, so they can run 40% of services. But the European Union raised concerns about the measures, as the Telegraph reported, as they could be seen to limit workers' rights in a way banned by the terms of the FTA. The UK agreed in December 2020 not to lower labour standards below pre-Brexit levels when signing up to the deal with the European Union, despite Germany, France, Spain and Italy also having minimum service level laws which have not been enforced. Operators have not used the new powers, including during the last train strikes, after LNER attempted to impose the rules but gave up after the union called an extra strike. But officials reportedly rode over the move in London last year, with the EU said to have expressed concern and Brits insisting Sunak's strikes crackdown was compliant. The Telegraph said an EU source told them the European Commission was looking into further action and was not happy with the UK's position. It comes as some Tory MPs have shared fears over the New Deal with Northern Ireland, potentially tying the UK into more EU regulation. While Labour have previously promised to repeal the strike laws, which also apply to nurses, teachers and firefighters. A government spokesman insisted to the paper that the legislation is compatible with all our international trade obligations, including the Brexit deal, the TCA. Businesses that make sporting goods, children's toys, jewelry and medical goods have also struggled the most with the border costs imposed by the UK's decision to leave the EU. Brexit is not bringing discussions, but it's also leaving a hole of almost £100 billion in annual UK exports, making Britain's economy worse off than it had remained in the European Union, as an analysis has claimed. Businesses that make an array of products including sporting goods, children's toys, jewelry and medical equipment have struggled the most with border costs imposed by the UK's decision to leave the EU, leading to 30% less trade between 2020 and 2023 than if Britain had stayed in the European Union. Since leaving the single market, Britain's export growth has been sluggish behind other advanced economies, leading to missed growth in goods and services exports of around £23 billion quarterly, as the analysis reveals. The gloomy data supports arguments from other economists that leaving the EU has damaged the UK's financial health and not freed up the £350 million a week for the NHS that Boris Johnson and the Leave campaign promised. Conservative ministers, whether Leave or Remain backers, have largely refused to accept that Brexit has damaged Britain's economy. But there are a lot of independent estimates from experts on the big hit to economic growth from quitting the EU. And the most recent study is the bleakest. Economists at Cambridge Econometrics found that Brexit has already cost the UK economy £140 billion in lost growth than it would have had if the UK opted to remain in the customs union and single market. I talked about this a few weeks ago already. And looking at the growth through the prism of gross value added, that's the overall value of goods and services, they also estimated that it would leave the UK $311 billion worse off by 2035. According to analysis carried out last year by experts at Bloomberg Economics, Brexit is costing the UK economy £100 billion a year. And the group estimated that gross domestic product is 4% smaller than it might have been while in the EU. And the government in London also wants to further restrict the right to demonstrate in Great Britain. For example, climbing on national monuments will be banned in the future. In the past, demonstrators had shown blatant disrespect towards those who sacrificed their lives for this country. That was said in a statement from the Home Office in London about this. The change in the law makes climbing war memorials a specific offence against public order, punishable by 3 months in prison and a fine of about £1,000. In addition, anyone who makes themselves unrecognizable by wearing masks or something similar can be punished. And bringing pyrotechnics is also prohibited. At the same time, the possibility of using protests as a pretext to commit crimes such as blocking public roads, chaining oneself, or disrupting public order, that should be eliminated. The right to demonstrate is of paramount importance in our country, but taking flares to protect marches to cause harm and disruption is not a protest, it is dangerous. That's what Home Secretary James Cleverly said, according to the statement. And the changes should be included in the Criminal Justice Bill, currently being discussed in the House of Commons, and apply to England and Wales. The Conservative government in Great Britain had already tightened the right to demonstrate in recent years, and since 2022 the police have been able to impose conditions on demonstrators through the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act, for example, if they believe they are too loud. Human rights organizations such as Amnesty International criticize the restrictions and warn that freedom of demonstration in the UK is at risk. Here in Germany, requirements such as those required by law in England and Wales are often imposed by the regulatory authorities, and violations are punished by the police. The wearing mask thing and stuff is what we hear of too. But at least there is some good news about British collaborations for a change.